Hello, welcome. I'm Olajola and I still promise I'm a singer-songwriter and a couple of other things as the need arises. If you saw my last video, you understand where I'm coming from. It feels good to be back again with another wrap of sorts of my favorite Nigerian pageant delegates for the year 2025, and this time around it's for the guys. And I know there are a couple of standing stereotypes about men in pageantry and modeling, about how maybe they're too superficial or probably gay, and while that might be true for some, I think there are superficial men and gay men everywhere in every kind of industry. Plus, the definition of gay says nothing about one being in a particular industry or the other. We can let our brains work, it's okay. Yeah. Also, as I mentioned in my last video, and as I'd like to think that I'm someone who can always find my way to the good in a mix, I think pageantry, when done right, can have like a lot of benefits. It can be such a beautiful celebration of beauty that platforms the great passion and discipline, as well as brains, that requires delegates to demonstrate and exhibit in order to succeed. And I think that's a good thing that should be celebrated. Now, a disclaimer: this is not an exhaustive list in any way. This is simply a list of a few delegates whose journeys I followed to a closer degree than some others. There were some other pageant delegates who represented the country at some smaller scale pageants. No shade. I think it's such a huge deal and task to represent a country internationally, and I think every one of these delegates did such an amazing job. And I think I'd also like to state that these are majorly my opinions with a hint of popular opinions here and there. As I did with the women, I'll be giving my thoughts on how they did and what I think might have affected their placement. Let's get into it. So, first on my list is Alex Nnoruga. He was crowned Mr. of Nigeria earlier this year, and by virtue of that, he was built to represent the country at Manhunt International, which is described as one of the biggest male supermodel competitions in the world. Although I think his predecessor was supposed to represent the country this year, while he represents next year, but that was not the case. And it's not quite clear why it happened that way. So he had a lot less time to prepare than he would have had under the right circumstances. When the delegates for the MON 2025 were posted, I must say his face stood out as one of the standout contestants from the get-go. Luckily, he went on to back it up with multiple wins in melee challenges, showing that he was not just another pretty face in the crowd. And as much as he says this was his first attempt at pageantry, he has been a model for quite a while, and I think all that contributed into him delivering an amazing performance, which proved to be crown worthy. On the international stage, he still was one of the standout contestants, face-wise, body-wise, performance-wise, and I think he did a healthy job selling himself and the country as well. I think he was our first ever delegate at Manhunt International, and then closing out with a top 8 finish, 8th runner-up, as his sash says. I think he did really good. I don't think he could have or needed to have done anything more than he already did, because he showed up as a stellar delegate start to finish. Styling was impeccable. He built media buzz, consistently working before he eventually went, performed very well. I think why he didn't place higher or did not win must have been more about what the organization was looking for than anything else he could have done about it. Next on my list is Bethel Mbamara, another MON king. Finishing as the runner-up, he earned the title Mr International Nigeria and was built to represent the country on the international stage. He was also a standout from when delegates were posted initially, and he also went on to show up well in the mini tasks in the competition. I think his charm is his youthful yet very model-esque face, great shape, great bone structure. Being the successor of the reigning Mr International Samuel Nwajagwu at the time, of course, there were conversations about the potential of a back-to-back, and he got straight to business, putting in work on fitness aspects, styling, consultations. He even changed his look a couple of times, testing the waters for what he was eventually going to settle on for the competition, and I think such dedication and commitment should be celebrated and recognized. He also had some special advocacy moments here and there. At the international competition, immediately, both pre and post the competition, he won so many hearts. Comments about his beauty and performance skills were rolling in, and the conversations about a back-to-back even became louder. In my opinion, his and Mr Cosmopilitan's works were two of the nicest, least over-dramatized, and just all-round good to look at. His styling was very good. He had a viral sashing ceremony outfit. He did really well in the competition, ended up placing in the top 5 as a third runner-up, and Mr International Africa after one round of questioning in the Q&A section. And while there immediately were conversations about whether he was deserving of more or not, I think a few things were not in his favor in that light. Firstly, and as usual, maybe the organization was looking for something different. I mean, we just held the title. Maybe they were not ready for a back-to-back yet. Secondly, on his end, I do think that his communication still needed a little bit of work. Hear me out. I know the argument on the Q&A end of things was that the judge who read out the question was not fluent in English. However, Bethel was still able to make out enough of what was said to give a satisfactory answer. But as in an interview, as what I think a competition like this is, like you're interviewing to be a representative for the organization, you always want to go above and beyond and give robust answers, like, sell yourself as a better candidate than the rest of people on the table. I thought he gave a rather direct and straightforward answer. He could have gone on to link that answer to his life experiences, advocacy, and just all around to sell himself as an inspiration to young men all over the world. That could have been a better approach. Also, there were instances where he was interviewed by members of the media team and his answers felt kind of rehearsed, just saying. However, he did such a stunning job and ended his journey really amazingly. Number 3 on my list is Mazi Michael, who was crowned Mr. World in October last year. He was supposed to represent the country at Mr. World International competition in December last year, but he was unable to go due to some unforeseen circumstances. Fortunately for him, all hopes of representing the country internationally was not lost, as he was confirmed to replace the hitherto Mr. Supranational Delegate at the international competition to be held in 2025 after his widely published media error. I can't say whether that was why he was replaced, but it is what it is. And so Mazi turned his gaze upon his new task and got right into preparation mode. He arrived in Poland and soon became one of the fan favorites to win, and he didn't stop there. He went on to place in the top 10 of the fashion show, as well as top 5 in the talent segment, where he showed off his spoken word skills. He's a nurse, and I'm always so excited to see people from professions who you wouldn't consider to be any fun in pageantry or entertainment. I'm for the breakers of chains of stereotypes, always. Ultimately, he finished as 3rd runner-up after such a stunning performance in the Q&A round to crown all the good work he had been doing up until then. As to whether he could have won or done even better, I think it was just a matter of what the organization was looking for. And they probably would have to come and tell us what it was they were looking for and what it was they planned to do with what they were looking for, because it's been months after the competition and the last person's dream wasn't as quiet as this. The next delegate I'm talking about is Godwin Awaji. He earned the Mr. Cosmopilitan Nigeria 2025 title as one of the runner-ups as well at MON 2025. I think he is our first delegate ever at the competition. It has only been on for 3 editions, and he was also one of the standout contestants from the get-go at the nationals. I think he really did well at the international competition. He had such a fun delivery at the talent showcase, even though he didn't win that. But he went on to land a top 10 finish, as well as the Mr. Cosmopilitan Africa title. And he also earned Best Body Award and Best Evening Wear performance at the preliminaries. In my opinion, he did a really amazing job. I was able to appreciate his work as a delegate better on the international stage, and even post-competition, his work with graphics, events, and his advocacy really well. As to whether he could have done better or placed higher, I still think it was about what the organization was looking for. And in situations like that, there's hardly anything you can do about it. So the next delegate I'm going to talk about is Victor Ngoka, another MON king. I mean, we cannot overemphasize the amazing work that MON is doing, holding it down for Nigeria at the national and international pageant fronts. They do a very good job putting up an amazing show, showing up and showing out for their delegates, preparing them extensively to do amazing work on the international stage. Victor earned the Mr. Global Nigeria 2025 title as a runner-up at the MON competition, as he proved to be a top contender from the start, and with a couple of wins in the mini competitions in his bag, he did really well, in my opinion. He put the time he had to pay for his international competition to good use, working out, going for fittings, advocacy, and doing special appearances. His competition was pretty much immediately after Bethel's, And I think we also have to mention that he was defending a second runner-up title earned by Favour Ogbuokiri in 2024. Among his top qualities as a pageant delegate, as a pageant king, I think for me his speaking ranks the highest. Always one of the most passionate speakers of the bunch on the national level, at the international level, and the things he said were very valuable and like had weight to them. I would also like to mention that I appreciate the fact that he didn't feel the need to cook up an accent, and hardly anybody on this list did. I think how we speak is a reflection of a lot of things, a lot of experiences that we've been exposed to, and I think we want to be as honest as we possibly can about that. At the international level, he won the Mr Popularity contest, which is simply the online popularity voting contest, and that was pretty much how he gained his entry into the top 10. Unfortunately, that was as far as he was allowed to go in the competition, and I think he had to do more with what the organization was looking for than anything anybody could have done about it. Next and final on my list is Awolesi David. As at the time I'm shooting this video, he's still competing in Thailand at the international Mr Friendship competition in Thailand. So if there's any new developments before I post, I'll be sure to include that somehow. I must mention that Awolesi David competed at MON 2005 as well. However, he failed to earn or clinch a title at that competition, and then proceeded to compete at Mr Elite Nigeria a few months down the line, where thankfully he was able to secure the Mr Friendship Nigeria title. As both competitions, honestly, I think he did really well. He gave such a beautiful performance, and with MON, it was probably just a thing of what the organization was looking for. But I'm glad that that situation did not deter him from chasing his dreams. I'm also glad that he was eventually able to make it down to Thailand for the competition in time for the competition, because it looks like there were some issues that were going to prevent that from happening, to the point that he had to resort to last-minute crowdfunding. At the moment, and in such a short time, he has been able to land a top 3 placement at the Voice of Friendship contest, which is one of the mini contests the competition has leading up to the finale. I honestly wish him the best and hope for a placement, even a win if possible. So that concludes my list, but before I close out, I can't but notice how it might look like the men are doing a lot better than the women on the international pageant front representing Nigeria. I'd like to know what your thoughts are about that. You can share them in the comments. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for listening. See you soon. Bye.